Lisa Bonet was born in San Francisco and grew up in Los Angeles, living in a mostly white, affluent neighborhood. From the beginning, she often felt a sense of not belonging. Her parents divorced when she was young, and being an only child shaped her personality deeply. Loneliness became a part of her, and that feeling followed her throughout her life. She never felt anchored to a single world, and that sense of displacement would shape her choices and her perspective on life. Acting entered her life almost by accident. A friend invited her to an acting class, and for the first time, she felt she had found a place where being different was not a weakness. It was a space where her individuality mattered. Soon after, she landed a guest role on the TV show Saint Elsewhere, and it became clear that acting could give her a path forward. But nothing prepared her for what came next. At just 16, she auditioned for a role that would change her life forever. She became Denise Huxtable on The Cosby Show, a role that turned her into a national icon almost overnight. Millions of viewers across the country watched her grow up on television, and she quickly became a fashion inspiration and a symbol of youthful confidence. However, even as fame settled on her shoulders, Lisa never fully embraced it. She understood that being famous could be both a blessing and a trap. Producers and people around her noticed early on that Lisa had a mind of her own. Marcy Carey, a producer on the show, recalled sensing that Lisa would always stay true to herself, no matter what Hollywood demanded. That instinct defined her career, shaping every choice she would make. While other young actors leaned into fame and the comfort it brought, Lisa quietly resisted being boxed into a single image. By the time she turned 18, the gap between the person she was and the image America expected her to be had become impossible to ignore. She was still the dependable, charming big sister on a family sitcom, but inside, she was restless. Fame had arrived too early and too easily, and she was already aware of the unspoken rules of Hollywood. Once an actor became a symbol, escaping it could cost everything. That awareness led her to a bold choice. She accepted a role in the movie Angel Heart, a dark, adult-themed film, very different from the wholesome image of Denise Huxtable. The film was psychologically complex and openly sexual, which shocked audiences and critics alike. Headlines focused on her appearance rather than her performance, and the reaction was harsh. Yet Lisa never saw it as rebellion. She believed she had a responsibility to herself, not a fictional character. Television actors were rarely taken seriously in film, and she wanted to grow as an artist. When critics accused her of betraying America's perception of Denise Huxtable, Lisa responded with clarity, instead of apology. She wanted freedom, expression, and personal growth, and she made that intention clear. Around the same time, she was considered for a spin-off of The Cosby Show, a show built around her character. Initially, the project launched successfully, but challenges arose behind the scenes. When Lisa became pregnant, the producers faced a dilemma: incorporate the pregnancy or not. Ultimately, the decision was made to keep the character static, which created tension. Lisa chose to step away from the series she had helped inspire. This decision brought public scrutiny, as many viewed it as problematic, but those close to the production understood her choice. At barely 20, Lisa found herself judged for her career decisions, her body, her motherhood, and her refusal to conform to Hollywood's expectations. This moment marked a turning point. Hollywood began to see her as unpredictable, while she began to see Hollywood as conditional. Once that boundary was crossed, there was no going back. She began a period of quiet withdrawal, focusing on motherhood and her personal growth. When her daughter Zoe was born, Lisa didn't treat motherhood as a subplot or secondary role. It became central to her life, and she prioritized stability over spectacle. She moved with Zoe to Topanga Canyon, far from Hollywood's intense spotlight, and embraced a lifestyle connected to nature, animals, and introspection. During this time she legally changed her name to Leela Koi Moon, signaling a desire to separate her private self from her public persona. This period, often misunderstood as disappearance, was in reality a deliberate recalibration. Lisa practiced yoga, spent time in nature, and engaged in introspection, shaping her life quietly over decades. She didn't reject acting entirely, but she rejected the idea that her worth depended on public attention. These choices laid the foundation for the transformation that would follow later in her personal life. Lisa's love life also played an important role in her transformation. Her marriage to Lenny Kravitz began with admiration and intensity, but it unfolded under the glare of public scrutiny. Their relationship ended, carrying emotional weight for both. Lisa handled the breakup quietly, focusing on herself and her daughter, rather than seeking public validation. She maintained a positive relationship with Lenny for the sake of Zoe, prioritizing family harmony over headlines. When she later met Jason Momoa, the connection was understated and almost accidental. They met in a jazz club in Los Angeles, long before Jason became a global star. At the time, he was relatively unknown and openly nervous around her, while Lisa had already experienced fame, backlash, and withdrawal. Their relationship grew quietly, away from cameras and media attention. For Lisa, the appeal was emotional safety and steadiness. For Jason, it was Lisa's wisdom, calmness, and life experience. They built a blended family, co-parenting in a way that respected Zoe and their mutual responsibilities. Unlike many Hollywood couples, their relationship wasn't designed for headlines or red carpets. It was grounded in home life, emotional honesty, and shared values. Over time, however, the relationship faced natural challenges. As Jason's career accelerated, he spent more time traveling and working on high-profile projects, while Lisa preferred the quiet life she had carefully cultivated. The difference in pace and priorities gradually became clear. Lisa did not want to chase momentum or visibility. She wanted to protect the life she had built. Over months, the separation unfolded privately, with careful emotional work before any public announcement. When news of the split became public, it was met with curiosity and speculation. But Lisa had already navigated the emotional aspects internally. She did not engage in public statements, dramatic explanations, or attempts to shape the narrative. This behavior, quiet as it was, reflected a consistent pattern in her life, choosing personal alignment over external validation. People who knew her described someone who was lighter, more grounded, and deliberate in her choices. She didn't scramble to fill the space left by separation, and her focus shifted further away from Hollywood. Acting projects were no longer a priority. She had no urgency to return to work, and she was financially secure enough not to care. For Lisa, work had always been a form of expression rather than a measure of worth. Her life became about presence, about cultivating routines and connections that were real and fulfilling. Her appearance, once heavily scrutinized, also became a reflection of this approach. She maintained a simple skincare routine, minimal makeup, and consistency rather than correction. Over time, people noticed that she seemed unchanged by the pressures of age or fame, and speculation arose about her choices. Lisa, however, had already made peace with her life. Her transformation was not about physical changes or public image. It was behavioral and philosophical. She continued to practice yoga, movement, African dance, and time in nature. She remained absent from social media and avoided public commentary, choosing instead to spend time with her children, family, and close friends. Her quiet approach challenged Hollywood's expectations. In an industry obsessed with reinvention and visibility, Lisa's refusal to perform growth publicly became a radical statement. She did not chase fame or validation. She simply became herself. Her transformation was unsettling to many because it could not be packaged, marketed, or easily explained. It demonstrated that growth and healing could exist entirely outside the public eye. For Lisa, this period highlighted the value of alignment over attention, presence over performance, and personal integrity over societal expectation. Lisa Bonet's transformation became most visible in its subtlety. After her separation from Jason Momoa, there was no reinvention tour, no dramatic statement, no public attempt to control perception. She did not seek to reclaim attention or prove anything to anyone. Instead, she embraced stillness and quiet power. This approach, while understated, drew attention precisely because it broke the mold of what people expected from celebrities. Where others might use a breakup as a platform for visibility, Lisa treated it as a continuation of her life philosophy: alignment over appearance, authenticity over performance. Her daily routine emphasized balance and connection. Time was spent with family, in nature, and on personal practices that nurtured the body and mind. She practiced yoga and movement, valued simplicity, and prioritized presence over productivity. Her philosophy toward aging and beauty was equally radical. She focused on maintenance and care, not correction, and avoided the pressure to conform to societal standards of anti-aging or perfection. This approach extended to her family. When her daughter faced scrutiny about appearance, Lisa's guidance was grounded in honesty, self-respect, and the understanding that bodies are private projects, not public performances. Public reaction varied. Many people speculated about her absence, wondering whether she had withdrawn due to failure, scandal, or loss. In reality, Lisa had already completed the personal work necessary to live in alignment with her values. She had achieved fame, legacy, and influence early in life, and what remained was the deeper work of living quietly and intentionally. Her transformation was not triggered by separation. The separation simply revealed a person who had been growing for decades. Lisa's journey demonstrates that walking away, slowing down, or choosing privacy is not weakness. It is a form of power, subtle and deliberate. She became unreachable to narratives that sought to define her, demonstrating that independence, clarity, and self-determination can exist outside the glare of public attention. This quiet evolution unsettles Hollywood and observers alike, because it resists categorization. She did not conform, perform, or explain herself. Instead, she lived authentically, setting an example that challenges assumptions about fame, aging, love, and personal growth. Her story offers a lesson that resonates beyond celebrity culture. True transformation is often invisible, internal, and deliberate. It reminds us that walking away from pressure, choosing presence over performance, and aligning life with values can be more powerful than any public declaration, makeover, or reinvention. Lisa Bonet's journey is ultimately about reclaiming oneself, quietly and unapologetically. Her transformation is a mirror for anyone struggling with societal expectations, a reminder that fulfillment comes not from applause or attention, but from understanding and living one's truth. And in that, her story continues to inspire, unsettle, and resonate. Even after decades away from the constant glare of Hollywood, Lisa Bonet's life and choices continued to capture attention. People watched her every move, expecting visible reinvention, a dramatic comeback, or at least some public explanation for the changes in her life. But Lisa did none of that. She remained deliberately private, quietly living in alignment with her values. Her absence from red carpets, award shows, and media appearances was not a sign of decline or failure. Instead, it became a clear statement. Her worth was never tied to visibility. For many observers, this lack of performance created confusion. In a world obsessed with celebrity reinvention, Lisa's refusal to engage with the spotlight was almost revolutionary. Some critics dismissed her as reclusive or disengaged, but those who understood her journey recognized a deeper message. Real transformation does not require attention or approval. Over the years, public perception of Lisa Bonet has shifted. Initially, people focused on her past roles, her relationships, and her choices, often framing them as rebellious or controversial. Headlines highlighted separations, family dynamics, and periods of withdrawal, but they often missed the underlying pattern. Lisa consistently chose alignment with her inner self over compliance with external expectations. That pattern became especially clear after her separation from Jason Momoa. While many expected a media-driven reinvention or a visual statement to reclaim attention, Lisa continued her path of quiet evolution. She did not chase appearances, redefine her image, or make public declarations. Instead, she focused on stability, personal growth, and maintaining a life that felt authentic. Friends and family described her as lighter, more grounded, and deliberate in her actions.